people are going to hear what they want to hear. So if we say something positive, they're going to say these guys are all right-wing, MAGA, Trump. If we say something negative,
we're anti-MAGA.
We're
Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it's left, right?
So I think one of the more, I'm going to call it interesting, because this too shall pass.
This isn't even, at this point in time, Scott, you look at this compared to the beginning of COVID.
COVID, what, the markets fell 30-some-odd%? And it ended up the year on a positive note.
I think.
Do you realize even the market crash of 1987, the market was down 29% during that month? That year was a positive year for investors. In other words, had you invested in January of 1987, the market had a major crash that we all heard about. At the end of the year, you made money. Had you just ignored the thing.
Yes.
This will pass. But I think what is unique about this downturn, it's the political environment, because like just driving in the studio, I don't listen to terrestrial radio much, but I was just flipping. I didn't like what I was listening to. I was flipping, turned something on, and it was a conservative commentator and talking about, this is exactly what's needed, and it's like drinking cough syrup. It doesn't taste good at first, but it's good for you or whatever. That was his take on it. And so there are some people that believe these tariffs are a good idea. They're a minority of people, by the way. But there's some that think this is a great idea. This is going to be a short-term blip. There's going to be a restructure, reorder. Companies are going to turn out better than ever. 5 years from now, things are going to be better than ever. And not at all worried. This is just kind of what needs to happen. This will be good in the long term. I'm excited about all this, right? So those people that have that conviction. Then there are those other ones that can't stand Trump and everything he stands for, maybe agree on one or two of his policies, but by and large, don't like anything about him.
Okay.
And think that these tariffs are a terrible idea. And so I think for those investors, it's even more difficult because
it's hard to stay invested because you're emotionally invested.
Well, not even, I'd say more than emotionally. You've got certain beliefs.
It's visceral. Is that?
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's hard to stay invested, right? And it's hard. Look, if I'm far right, maybe I want to change my portfolio and go further in. Maybe I want to move my equity positions up significantly because I believe in Donald Trump.
Well, I mean,
you look at
this
is hypothetical, by the way.
I mean, you look at like the small cap index, Russell 2000. It's bear market territory. Their stocks are 20% off. So
yes.
Someone might say it's a great buy. Someone might say it's a great buying opportunity. This is all going to pan out so nicely, and they're excited about this. If you're on the even middle, or maybe you voted for Trump holding your nose, or you can't stand Trump, you don't understand how anyone in the country could vote for this man, or worse, you're looking at this thinking, this is a complete change. He's going to destroy the country. He's going to become a dictator. He's going to run for a third term. And with that man, you don't know when he talks, is he serious or is he just trying to cause a...
So the point is, it's hard not to react to this if you're right or left.
And let's assume for a minute, that Trump is crazy. And let's assume that he starts taking us down a path that is totally destructive. If you looked what happened Wednesday, there are 4 Republican senators crossed the aisle, voted with the Democrats to try to strip away that emergency power for him to do these do these tariffs. Right? They say it's not going to go anywhere. First of all, they needed veto proof. But if it got that bad, the Senate and the House could pass legislation to neuter all this.
Yes. We have no idea where this is going.
Nobody does.
Right?
And you could flip around the channel. You could turn on Fox Business, CNBC. You could watch all day, all different commentators. You're going to get some commentators going to tell you why this is just a short-term blip. Here's how it's going to be great for things. We're going to make the markets great again, or whatever.
The market.
And then you're going to
wait. Make the market.
I don't know if that works, but and then you're going to get those that are going to tell you all the reasons that this is going to lead to global depression, and we're going to be worse than the 30s.
But look, the belief is right. I got to tell you, Scott. I like the fact that he laid it out in the formula.
Whether you agree with the formula or not.
Well, I question the formula, number one.
How about some of those islands that even there's no people on them?
Correct. I question the formula, number one. But the mere fact he laid it out in a formula means that if the opposing side wants the tariff to drop, then what do? They lower their tariffs. Like the China. Scott, if you looked at the formula they put on China, if you're in China and you're worried about your people, do you increase your quotas to the U.S. or do you lower them?
Your quotas or your tariffs?
Oh, I'm sorry, your tariffs.
Well, you would lower the tariffs.
That's why we have no idea whether this is because the opposing side, right? We don't know how the opposing side is going to react to this. We don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. That's my point. It wouldn't surprise me if China came back and said, you know what? You're right. We've been charging too much. We're going to lower our tariffs on U.S. goods.
Well, this stings everybody, right? So this isn't just, this could be bad for the U.S. and good for everybody else.
But correct. But my point being is, so let's say, right, this market falls off, and let's say it falls off for another 2 weeks. Or
3 weeks.
Or 4 weeks,
or
a month.
And it goes into a bear market. By the way, historically, the U.S. stock market experiences a 20% correction, defined as a bear market, I mean a 20% decline, the broad basket of stocks, about every 4 years, historically.
So
about every 4 years, and we haven't had that since COVID time. So
it wouldn't be surprising. It's in the course of investing. But my point being is, let's say China's reaction to this is, we need to keep our people working. And look, so we'll lower our tariffs by half. And then because it's a formula that they showed, they gave them a way out. You lower yours, we'll lower ours. Right. And if you're in the Chinese government, you say, we need to keep our people working. We're going to lower the tariffs on U.S. goods. Whether the Trump administration sticks to that formula in the negotiation, anyone's question. But it wouldn't surprise me if half the countries that we actually impose these tariffs on responded in 6 to 8 weeks and said, you know what? We're going to lower our tariffs. How does the market respond then? If it responded so negatively for the tariffs, how would it respond?
Who knows? But you would think that it would go up, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen,
my point.
Right?
That's my point. Which is,
there's two.
No one knows.
So one of three things. One, and maybe all three. One is these countries are going to react in some fashion. They don't want to see their economy implode either, right? So to your point, clearly some are going to come to the negotiation table and say, all right, what do we need to do?
How do we fix this?
How do we get these tariffs lowered, right? So, secondly, if you are the CEO of a company or on the board of directors of a company, and these tariffs are having a major impact or could have a major impact on your business, what are you doing? You're thinking, all right, as a business, where do we need to pivot? How do we pivot to survive this? What do we need to do? And we've already seen companies say, we're going to invest, we're going to building factories in the United States. We're going to start building more in the United States.
We've heard the companies say that, not the administration.
The companies, like this is
my point being is, it wasn't someone in the administration saying we're going to invest money, because then it's always questionable. The companies themselves said we're going to invest money in the U.S.
Correct. We're going to build factories in the U.S. in part to avoid these tariffs. And I think that's really what this administration's betting on. And then the third thing is that these tariffs get reduced or eliminated. And this is all just a negotiation tactic. And it's probably going to be we'll see all three of these levers.
Or they stick where they are and the consumer changes its behavior. The consumer changes their behavior.
And that's the case. There's going to be some winners and some losers.
Like the used car salespeople, winners. New car salespeople, losers.
If nothing changes.
If nothing changes.
Well, there's some certain things that...
Yeah. People don't stay static in price increases. That's just not...
So as an investor, Pat, as an investor, first of all, if you've listened to this program any length of time, or listen to most other competent financial advisors, they'll talk about you don't own stocks for short term. Stocks need to be considered longer term investments. If you need the money within 5 years, do not put those dollars in stocks because who knows what the stock's going to be worth. So let's assume for a moment that all of our listeners, that we and all investors have, our stocks are designed, they're set up in portfolios that are longer term. It's tempting to say, I want to get out
because
this is too uncertain. I don't like it. I'm going to wait until things settle. Then I'm going to get back in. The hard part, first of all, historically, no one's been able to do that consistently and outperform the market of just being fully invested.
That's correct.
And you need to be right, not just when you get out, but when you get back in. And think back to COVID.
Do you remember this? This COVID. How fast did it fall? 30
some odd percent.
I think it was as high as 37 in weeks. And then the year finished up.
And the year finished up.
Right? The year finished up. So how did companies, right? Remember, you're owning companies.
This market can get a whole lot worse before it gets better.
It wouldn't surprise me if it went one way or the other.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we had a 20-25% decline in stock prices. Doesn't mean I'm selling mine, nor recommending that people sell their stocks. Unless you plan on spending the money. If the money's set aside
for long term.
If it's for long term, then it's just what the most recent sale, two parties believed it was worth.
I talked to a number of advisors here at Allworth this morning, and they said, look, the phones are ringing, and the reason is it's all political. If you hate Trump, you want out. There are people calling.
That's what's so difficult, I think, about this one.
And
I have a lot of people. Like I've got some dear friends that are on the very liberal side of things.
I have children like
Trump.
that.
Okay, right? Yeah, I have a family too.
My dear friends.
And I have people that I think are a little crazy on how excited they are about everything, right? And all in between.
But don't let it drive your portfolio. Please don't let it drive your portfolio. Right? I think I mentioned this. I talked to someone 4 weeks ago that took all their money out of equities when Biden was elected.
Did they ever get back in?
No.
Well, hope they didn't get back in the beginning of Trump's administration because that hasn't worked out.
She asked me, when do I get back in? I go, what are you doing out? Well, Biden was going to ruin everything. I'm like, you're preparing for. She's like, do you think I have enough money for retirement? I'm like, you might have. Don't know now. Not a client of mine.
And now, what kind of rate of return do we plan going forward? You can't plan on a normal market return because that's she reacted.
Missed part of it.
That's what the problem was when you miss it. Anyway, we don't have the answers other than.
But thanks for listening.
Don't throw in the towel on your investment thesis,
please.